So about a year ago now, everyone remembers the affair of Mr. Snowden, and he exposed this issue that there's an awful lot of other agencies in the US that are deeply interested in what's happening on the internet and what individuals are doing. At the same time, of course, companies like Google and other advertising-based companies, where all their revenue comes from ads, are deeply interested in what people are doing. Now, we've been using an advertising network to set out a whole bunch of little tests to see if people can do IPv6 and do DNSSEC, etc. And we use these advertising networks to deliver a tiny little piece of code that comes back to us. And we thought, you know, it would be really interesting if we could find evidence of someone looking over the shoulders of users. Every URL, every object that we send out is unique. It only exists that once and is only used once. And so it was pretty easy to think, well, what if we look back at our servers and go, did it come back a second time? And was the second hit from somewhere else? We do about 500,000 data points a day, which is a lot. And if I look at the entire year of 2014, that's multiplied 500,000 a day by 250 or so, about 140 million separate sample points. And what's surprising is that around 1 in 400 of these unique URLs are sampled a second time by a different person. And it's that's a little bit surprising. So then we went down this data hunt of trying to understand, was this the bad thing? Was this folk illegally snooping or whatever? Or was this the normal network just doing what networks normally do? A lot of the things that make the internet fast is actually caching. So when you ask for a DNS name, the resolver not only gives you the answer, but it remembers the answer. So the next time someone asks, it goes, I won't bother asking the real thing, I'll just give you my answer. We do the same in the web. URLs get cached. So are we just seeing cache refreshes? Or are we just seeing the network doing what the network wanted to do? So you start sifting apart the data, you start going, I think I can see where the web proxies are, but there's this other bit that's still there. And then we thought, well, is it part of the network? Is it the same network as the user? Is it sort of local proxies? Eliminate that. Maybe it's about countries and national firewalls. We see a lot of that these days. What if the victim and the stalker are in completely different countries? And there was this strong remaining signal that we found where one particular type of URL stalking was located in one country, but the folk who were being stalked was in every other country on the planet. This was kind of weird, and we started then looking at browser signatures and so on to try and understand whether this was a virus or some kind of super clever espionage or similar, or whether it was just the normal operation. And what we found this time was it appeared that the browser that the user was running was actually equipped to send back the URLs to a cloud store, and it primed the cloud cache. So if you had a laptop and 3 mobile devices all connected to this browser's cloud, all of this stuff would be in sync because the cloud system was busy fetching your URLs. And you kind of go, is that benign? Certainly sounded helpful. Who else got to see what's in the cloud? Who else was looking? We don't have a rich regulatory environment in any country or internationally over the management of data that's not on the fly, data that sits in computers. And that's kind of a source, I think, of future concern, that when we look about how do we cope with the internet in terms of our practices and governance, etc. Part of this issue is it's no longer just the carrier. It's no longer the carriage of data that makes, us all worry. We should also be worried about where it stops and gets stored, and what are the rules, what's the guidelines, what's our common expectations about privacy and about being helpful. And that's, I think, a future area of, intense public debate about what's norms, what's appropriate, what's acceptable and what's not. And that was really where the presentation ended. We were quite amazed, I must admit, that in our tiny little sector of online ads, which in the internet terms, is a minute fraction of the whole. There was evidence of this structural thing, that all your web surfing is not as secret as you thought. Other folk are watching.